Warning. The following podcast is utter nonsense and may cause agoraphobia, kleptomania, insomnia, and oppositional defiance disorder. We are required by law to provide you with this disclaimer for hazardous materials.
Welcome back to Hazardous Materials and our 2020 Best of Worst of show.
Yeah, you could call this episode last year's comics this week.
Last year's comics this week. That's what we're going to be talking about. But we're going to be talking about the stuff that we liked and the stuff that we shat on.
Indeed.
Because it needed to happen.
I'm Gideon Gonzalez, and with me, as always,
Casey Johnson.
So just at the start of the hour, we're going to knock out our dishonorable mentions first. These are the books that were bad, but not the worst.
Dishonorable discharge.
These weren't the bottom three. And for me, it's got to go with Nick Spencer's current Amazing Spider-Man arc with Pat Gleason, with all this dumb Kindred stuff. Donny Cates, Jeff Shaw, Disaster Piece crossover. And James Tynion the Fourth Batman run, which is... I'm not a fan. I don't like it, but I don't actively hate it to the point where I put it in my bottom three. Casey?
Mine are not as the broad strokes that you are taking, because you definitely got some serious hate over
I got beef.
Multiple issues. I got beef. My beef is actually much more mundane. I really hated the whole Hell Arisen thing, the villain fatigue that you and I went through at the beginning of this year. That was garbage. But that garbage was not as bad as, of course, the Kindred run for Amazing Spider-Man. We are agreeing on this one. But I'm thinking that... Marvel's attempt at manga with Swordmaster.
Rough.
Now, this is Swordmaster. We didn't get into too much.
I don't think we ever talked about it.
It just completely evaded. But I did a little bit of research, thinking, okay, what was the worst reviewed comic of this year? It was Swordmaster. So I read Swordmaster. It was awful. Oh, it was awful. Not as awful as, of course, the three we're going to talk about, but Marvel tried something, and it turned into a 3-frame by page fan art mess. Yeah.
I'll give them kudos for trying, but...
And they did 12 issues of that.
That's what really shocked me. I remember one came out pretty recently, and I was like, this is still happening?
Like 2 weeks ago.
We're still doing this?
Yeah, apparently it's an ongoing. They're really sticking it out.
I think it's done now, though.
Yeah, I hope so.
So, first off, number 3 on my bottom 3 is The Flash by Josh Williamson, Howard Porter, and various other creators. Now, this is a book. Joshua Williamson has been on The Flash longer than any other writer, including Mark Waid, including Jeff Johns, and it's bad. Like, here's the thing. For a while, it's trucked by being mediocre with a couple highlights. But this final arc was one of the most genuinely insulting comics I've ever read. So it reveals that all of the nonsense, out of character, sad sack bullshit that's been permeating this book was actually Professor Zoom moving around, whispering into people's ears at hyperspeed to act out of character, which just feels like someone pointed out, hey, dude, you just stepped in dog shit, and then going, no, I meant to. It was on purpose that all these characters were written out of character, and you're stupid for not thinking that could be the case. And I was just like, really? So we're just saying over 100 issues of Flash were intentionally written terribly, and then we're just either the gutsiest or the stupidest thing I've ever read in a comic. And I'm leaning kind of towards the gutsiest because I genuinely like pretty much everything else Josh Williamson's ever written, except for his Flash run.
Now, it's funny that you're bringing all this up because I'm wearing all of my Reverse Flash gear. So yeah, I have all my Reverse Flash gear on for this, and I didn't read Flash.
It was dire. I'm reading it now with Kevin Shinnick on the book, and it's fine. Like, it is good enough to justify spending $4 every couple weeks on, but it's not really what I want. It's nowhere near Gail Simone's Flash run.
Once I heard word of the Slow Force, I checked out.
And they tried... Oh, I didn't even mention the attempts to lantern corify the Flash concepts with all of the different forces, with the strength force and the sage force and the slow force, because they all start with S's.
Yeah.
Which is why Sage Force is such a stupid name. God. Ugh. Yeah, so that's my number 3 worst book of 2020. Casey, what was your third?
My number 3 is Fallen Angels.
Woo.
Let's talk about the Hickman Hoxpox series of titles that were all massive, awesome books.
Oh yeah, you'll be hearing more about them later this episode.
Yes, every single one of these books was awesome. I enjoyed all of them, except for so much Excalibur, but that's because it talks about subject matter I'm not really interested in.
Yeah, I like Teenie Howard's doing great work, but I'm not a big Excalibur guy, so I can't appreciate it.
And then there's Fallen Angels. I forgot who wrote this, but I know you do.
Yes, it was Brian Hill, who, again, I'm normally a big fan of, but this was a huge missed opportunity for him.
Brian Hill obviously didn't pay attention to the characters that he was going to write for, or didn't care.
Yeah.
He took characters and just completely ignored their development cycles. So much so that when this 5-issue abomination actually ended, the characters reverted right back to where they were supposed to be and went about their lives.
Yeah, like from Laura in the main X-Men book to Quanon in Hellions and Kid Cable in his own book.
Right.
They all snapped right back as if nothing had happened.
I mean, as far as I was concerned, the worst of them was Lore Wolverine, who spent a lot of time shaking off these, for all intents and purposes, slave name that is X-23, and going into Wolverine, making this, she is Wolverine. It doesn't need to be one Wolverine. You can have more than one. You know, Miles Morales proved that one a long time ago. And then he just suddenly shakes that. Oh, I'm X-23, loses the Wolverine outfit, and starts doing assassinations.
Yeah, it was very much after, like, the whole big scene from Tom Taylor's Wolverine run that I loved was the I'm not a weapon scene. And then you just go right back to her being like, I'm a weapon for Mr. Sinister. I'm a killer. I can never be redeemed. Yeah, it was absurd.
The more I read it, actually, not only was it bad, it made me angry. I hated the book.
And then, not just to focus all of our ire at Mr. Hill, but Simon Kodransky is an artist who I adored. Like, I loved his stuff, but he absolutely phoned it in on that title.
Absolutely. There was nothing nice to look at there.
I really loved his art when he was on Spawn a few years back. He's actually what got me to start buying Spawn in the first place.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was. They retconned away all the stuff that I liked after his run was over, so
they need to retcon everything.
But yeah, but his big 2 work hasn't been nearly on that caliber, and Fallen Angels is definitely the low point of his career for me.
And I'm thankful to know that the people that are running X titles, the editors, obviously had the same thoughts that we did, because Fallen Angels ended very quickly, very quietly, swept under the rug, and was completely ignored.
Went away.
And they took the title characters and divided them amongst other projects. They had
where they could be better served.
Yeah, Laura went through that portal in the world,
coming back in January,
and they put Quanon as leader of Hellions, and then Kid Cable got his own title.
Yeah,
and it's great. I love Cable's title.
Let's say maybe we should be thankful that this did happen, because maybe they wouldn't have gotten these star treatments had they not been so poorly treated.
Yes, this is true, because Hellions and Cable was definitely an afterthought. They was not part of their main plan of Hoxpox. That's what it felt like to me, but still loved it.
Yeah, great stuff. Great. My number 2 is a book that, if you're a regular listener of our formerly weekly show, then you know my ire for the Scott Snyder Greg Capullo collaboration, Dark Knight's Death Metal, which, oh boy. Now, to his story's credit, it has had some pretty excellent tie-ins that I've had a lot of fun with, highlighting a lot of creators that I really enjoy that I don't get to see super often. But that said, the main story is just so frustratingly up its own ass of being a DC comic about DC Comics trying to fix continuity and just making things worse. But the biggest offender. I've accepted a lot of bad comics about comics in the past. I enjoy some elements of Convergence, for instance. But the biggest thing for me is taking the ball from Doomsday Clock, which is already probably my least favorite comic of last year, to Dr. Manhattan is just a part of DC events now, And the Batman who laughs can fucking kidnap a Bruce Wayne who became Dr. Manhattan, I guess, and stab him in the brain with a special Dr. Manhattan killing knife, and then have his brain put into that body so he can become an unstoppable Darkest Knight, and just, hate it.
So, without too much fanfare, Dark Knight Death Metal was on my list too. So we're not even going to go back and forth on that one.
Was it also your number 2?
That was my number 1, but we're gonna put it number 2 because just it makes it sound better. Because God, no, my normal number 2 is a fine number 1.
It's an excellent choice.
It's an excellent switcheroo, my friend.
But yeah,
I couldn't understand just how silly this series of books gets, and I'm wondering, is this a joke that's being played on me? Am I being Andy Kaufman to an epic degree? I mean, this is like the long con of bad
It's just
books.
ridiculous. And like, it's trying so hard to convince you that it's cool, but it feels like a dad trying way too hard to relate to his kids and being like, yeah, I'm metal. You kids like Donny Cates, right? Well, here I am. It's me, Scott Snyder, the cool dad.
Yeah,
it's just like, come on, man.
Apparently this the Joker, the Batman Who Laughs, is like a skin on Mortal Kombat.
I saw that.
Where this is going.
Which I was like, that's about where he belongs.
The whole thing is just this laughably ridiculous, and I feel like maybe I'm not in on the joke.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there is like this epic joke, and that's why everything is just so damn ridiculous. But I mean, there's ridiculous, and then there's Lobo level ridiculous.
And I've even heard, which Lobo actually had a pretty fun tie-in come out a couple weeks ago. I was gonna say, one of the common defenses I hear is that, again, kind of like Josh Whedon Flash Run, oh no, it's supposed to be bad. That like, you're annoyed from hearing about the Batman Who laughs all the time. That's because he's supposed to be a bad idea. That it's supposed to be like, oh, this is why we can't do this. It's like, well, if he's supposed to be an illustration of why this is a bad idea, actually, maybe you should tell the people who come and line up for it outside my work every week, because I guarantee you they are not reading Batman Who Laughs books ironically.
No,
like,
they're not. And
people love the Batman Who Laughs.
And despite all of this, the house of DC is burning. And something is going wrong.
And they are grabbing onto the coattails of Joker Batman.
Yes.
Which, if that don't tell you something's wrong,
because apparently the only things that matter now are the Trinity Stars and all the characters assigned to around them.
Let's say the original 7, except Martian Manhunter.
Yeah, exactly.
Back of the line, Greenie. As much as I hate all of the alternate Bruce Waynes, and I've gotten into very tired conversations at work about, he's like, well, what kind of alternate Batmans do you want to see? I'll just say none.
Oh, that's right. You've actually got to field these questions.
Yeah, I was like, I don't ever want to see another alternate universe Batman. I'm sick of them. The Mindhunter, who is the Martian Manhunter Batman mashup, is cool.
I've never seen
this. He's a great name. He's got a great design. And I mean, like, it's Batman with Martian Manhunter powers. It's kind of sick, actually.
I mean, the most recent one I saw was Batman Lobo.
Yeah, the Batman who frags.
Yeah, it's the Batman who frags, which apparently is Bruce Wayne, who's injected himself with Zarnian DNA, which
pretty rad.
Yeah.
See, that's the level of stupid I want from this book, and it's not the level I'm getting from the main title.
No, I mean, if I'm gonna check into absolute absurdity, it's gonna be a Lobo book.
Yeah,
because I know exactly what I'm in.
It's even called XXX Stream.
Yeah, so I knew that was gonna be in for a silly fun time. So the Lobo book, I accept that.
All right.
Everything else, unacceptable.
All right, Casey. Since we both shared a number 2, what is your number 1?
You know, and this hurts my feelings. Because the writer of this book, I love what he's done in TV. I love what he's done in movies. But apparently when you write a comic book for your kid, you're going to shit the bed. And what I'm talking about here is Objectiveless Spider-Man, the J.J. Abrams story.
Oh, man, that's a bad one.
Oh, my God.
I had to think. The book's production schedule has been absolutely abysmal. Because, again, and we've seen this happen before, when a Hollywood big shot comes in to write a comic, it's not his first priority. He's gonna have other stuff got to get done before this, and so they always slip months and months and months. I don't even remember the last time an issue came out.
It keeps getting delayed and keeps delayed. And honestly, when we first read about this, and we dumped all over it.
Oh yeah,
we really dumped all over it. It was so bad, and I hated it so much that when I heard that number 2 had been delayed, I thought that was divine intervention, and I'm an atheist.
God himself said no.
God himself willed himself to being and said, no, there will not be a number 2 of this book.
But yeah, it's like J.J. Abrams or his son read Spider-Girl and was like, man, I love this, but you know what'd be great? If there was 100% less women in it.
Yeah, let's completely get rid of all the women
let's kill Mary Jane, and also let's make their kid be a dude instead of a girl.
I'm gonna try to slip this under Tom DeFalco's nose and pretend like he didn't exist.
And also just make him the boringest protagonist ever. I couldn't tell you a damn thing about Peter Parker's son, much less his name. I don't remember it. It ain't Mayday Parker.
Yeah, so instead of losing his leg, I think they lost his arm.
Something like that,
because it was a legless Peter for Spider-Girl, and it's an armless Peter.
It's so weird. Like, it's clear they read Spider-Girl. So why did they do this?
Because someone said, you know what? Let's do this whole movie creator thing, and let's give him creative control. So let's remove his editor. This had to have happened without an editor, and. I think somebody came over from DC. It's like, you know what? I was hanging out in DC for the past year. We don't have editors. let's do this with J.J. Abrams, and I guarantee there's money to be made. God.
Well, at least that sick keyboard solo he did in the Cool Guys Don't Look at Explosions music video for the MTV Movie Awards will not be supplanted as my favorite J.J. Abrams work.
You know, I love Spider-Man, and it was one of those weird things where I didn't realize I loved Spider-Man until I looked at the fact that I buy Spider-Man books. I love Spider-Man supporting characters.
He's my boy. He's my
I
number one.
love Spider-Man video games. I love Spider-Man. And then J.J. Abrams came over and go, no, you don't.
I see, that only affirmed my love for Spider-Man, because I was like,
Who is this traitor that walks into our room of worship?
Exactly. It's like, what the shit is this?
Oh my God.
Whomst dares?
Whomst dares? Who dares wake me from my slumber of loving Spider-Man?
But yeah, JJ Spider-Man. Again, you can have JJ do the first installment of something and ask some dumb questions, but if you ever expect him to answer them, you're never going to be satisfied.
Yeah, if you're going to do like a I hesitate to really conceptualize how this book is going to end, because I know I'm probably going to have to
find out next week. So we'll see.
Is the last issue really?
Final 5's coming out.
Oh my God,
this Wednesday.
I did not read 2, 3, or 4. Did 2, 3, 4 come out?
They did.
So it's a 5-issue
series.
They
staggeredly came out, but yeah, they did eventually come out.
Oh God, I wonder how bad it got.
Pretty dire.
So that's my garbage list. So who's the king of your shit heap?
Number 1 on my worst comics of 2020, The Three Jokers by Jeff Johns and Jason Fabok. And I've had beef with Jeffrey for a little while now.
And I can't believe we're actually talking about Jeff Johns as like a bad thing.
I mean, let's be real. He hasn't written a good book since Aquaman. Aquaman's about the last time I really thoroughly enjoyed a Jeff Johns comic. But Three Jokers is the epitome of being unable to deliver on a big promise. Because this book has been teased for 5 years.
Yeah.
The idea was first introduced in 2015 at the end of Jeff Johns' frustratingly mediocre Justice League run, when Batman sits in the Mobius chair, asking what the Joker's identity is, and is shocked to hear which one. There are 3 Jokers. Which is immediately undercut by the final issue of Three Jokers, wherein Batman says, I've known the Joker's identity since a week after he made his debut.
Well, talk about some inconsistencies.
Yeah.
You're trying to tell me that God Batman didn't know, but normal bats over here did?
And yeah, exactly. And these are both books written by Jeff Johns, so he doesn't have the excuse of having not read it. And
did Jeff Johns have a senior moment?
Maybe, man. Is that what the senior creative officer means? But anyways, the thing with this book is, much like Doomsday Clock, is Jeff Johns desperately trying to get the respectability of Alan Moore by glomping on to Alan Moore projects. And we can trace this all back to in a 2008 interview when asked about characters from his Green Lantern story showing up in Blackest Night, Alan Moore says, "Oh, DC's always digging through my garbage for ideas." And I think Jeff Johns took that personally, because first, at the end of Brightest Day, he made it so Swamp Thing was actually Alec Holland the whole time. Then you've got Doomsday Clock, where he tried to give a happy ending to Watchmen. And then you get Three Jokers, where he gives a happy ending to the goddamn Killing Joke. Where he reveals that, he 100% makes it so Killing Joke is the definitive Joker origin. He's like, yeah, that's what happened. There was a sad sack comedian. But he makes it so said comedian was an abusive husband, and that his wife and kid didn't actually die, but were instead witness, like, they got like witness protection programmed, even though they weren't a witness to any crimes. The cops just pooled money together to send her to Alaska, and they're still alive, and Batman knows about them.
It feels like have you ever seen the TV show that Timothy Oliphant
Justified?
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you seen the end of Justified?
No. Don't spoil it for me.
All right, moving on.
If it better end with him quick drawing on the Joker now, or I'll be very disappointed.
There's some echoes to what you're saying with the end of that.
But so there's that. There is the really okay. Man, I got so many negative thoughts about this book. To quote the Joker himself, all I have are negative thoughts.
Before you really dig into those negative thoughts, I'm gonna throw this one at you. I didn't think it was that bad.
What was good about it?
Okay, now I didn't say there was anything good about it. I don't think it's the king of the shit heap that is the J.J. Abrams Spider-Man. But I read through it and I was entertained by some aspects of it. I was not thrilled by the status quo return.
Oh my god. Yeah, that's what I was getting to. Is the book achieves nothing.
Yeah.
Literally there are zero consequences to this entire book. You start off with three Jokers. Spoiler, there's one at the end.
Yeah,
it's like the Killing Joke Joker.
Big reveal. Now we're going to explain why these three iterations of Jokers have been so different. And now that you know
except for they don't at all.
Yeah,
they're just kind of there and
but
gone.
Now that you know this, they're gone.
Yeah,
bye.
And it's ambiguous whether or not they actually ever did actually exist, or if the comedian just on a lark whipped this plan together. Because they also, like, the three Jokers aren't revealed because Batman started investigating them after being in the Mobius chair. It's because they decided to do crimes at the same time.
Yeah.
And I remember clowning on this when the issue came out, and Bullet goes,
"Oh yeah,
you must have been in three places at once.
That's impossible."
That's not even going back to dumb status quo stuff. The attempt, if you want to call it that, of a Red Hood Batgirl relationship.
Yeah, and then it was swept away by a convenient janitor.
Yeah, in a purple outfit, and it's You know what? I'll say this about it. Let me just say one nice thing about it. Jason Fabok doing career best work on this, even though he has the thankless job of doing a Brian Boland impression over a really mediocre script. He knocks it out of the park. The imagery in the book is gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I'm furious that they wasted
on this.
Yeah, they wasted all those years of work from Jason Fabok on this. And I'm so mad that they're talking about a sequel that would just derive us of potentially good Jason Fabok comics.
And I think that's where my angle comes from. When it comes to comic books, I'm a big sucker for visuals.
Mm-hmm.
I will be completely hooked in by beautiful visuals and sometimes even gloss over how bad a script really can be. You are the script man here.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's like, wow, this looks really pretty. Wait a minute. I'm that guy. So this book looked beautiful.
Yeah.
I loved it. I love the way they did Red Hood. I like the way he was drawn. I kind of liked Barbara because I hate that outfit that she wears right now. And I'm hearing rumor that they're going to make her Oracle. And
she's pretty much Oracle full-time in the main Bat book now.
And I'm okay with that because her outfit was garbage. And I'm a Cassandra Cain through and through. And now that I'm seeing that new gorgeous picture of Cassandra Cain with Stephanie, which we're going to put up right here. And she's back wearing the outfit that she should be wearing. And now she's a Batgirl. And I love that.
So with that, the best way I can describe Three Jokers imagine you see a beautiful wedding cake. It's sculpted fondant. It looks incredible. You take out your knife, you lower it, you get yourself a slice, and then you see it as dog turd flies flying
on
around
top
it.
of mayonnaise. That is probably the most apt description, I think, of this particular book.
A beautiful nightmare.
And I appreciate the fact you put it on the top of your list. I could not, because there's just so many. I actually read it, the whole thing, because it was beautiful. And then when I was at the very end, when I realized, okay, we just have one Joker now, there's no real consequences for this book at all. I was like,
and nothing
wow.
of value was lost.
Yeah.
My last thing I will say on it, they missed opportunity because they kill a Joker every issue. It should have just been 3 Jokers, 2 Jokers, one Joker.
Missed opportunity. Somebody in marketing needs to come and hire you. I'm telling you.
They should. Now that we've gotten all of our piss and vinegar out, it's time to focus on the good that came from 2020. What little good came from 2020?
Bright rays and sunshine.
But I will say this. It was a lot harder to narrow down my top 3 good than my bottom 3 bad. So I'm going to hit you with some honorable mentions real quick before we go on to your number 3 for your tops.
Sure.
My honorable mentions, I want to give a shout out to Far Sector, amazing book. Dracula Motherfucker, an excellent OGN that is absolutely gorgeous. Erica Henderson's best work, I would say. Wonder Woman Dead Earth, an actually metal combat. If you want true metal aesthetics, you can't go wrong there. Guardians of the Galaxy, which has righted the ship after being lost for so very long. Immortal Hulk, what more needs to be said? Probably the greatest Marvel book on the shelf.
I'm actually surprised to say that a couple of my honorable mentions are in your list.
Yay!
2 of them at least.
Hawkeye Freefall. I'm sad that it got cut short. Wish it got to keep going. Suicide Squad, really fun. Even if it did kind of end up being a backdoor pilot for Tom Taylor's new characters, but it's still a really great series. And of course, the conclusion of Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen. Fraction and Lieber absolutely killed it.
So, God, my honorable mentions, every time we do this, last time we did this, mine was so much shorter than yours. Once again, in keeping with consistency, my honorable mentions is very short. Now, earlier when I mentioned that I'd done some research about Swordmaster and finding out just the great turd that it was, and I read Swordmaster, I also found out how great Dracula Motherfucker is.
It's so good.
It was so good. And I almost put it in my best.
It almost
but I hadn't finished it yet. But just the fact that it exists.
Pulpy 70s Dracula.
Which we love 70s Dracula.
Yeah.
That's where we bonded. Oh, Moon Knight walking down the steps. Give me my money, motherfucker. Oh, I love Dracula Motherfucker. But it's honorable mentions because I haven't quite properly digested it yet. Far Sector, for sure, is in my honorable mentions. And New Mutants, but only some of the New Mutants. I didn't really care for the Armor storylines and the Beak storylines. Those were
so Hickman's New Mutants, which actually no.
Anything that Roberto was talking to the fourth wall. Gold.
I don't know if any of those issues came out in 2020 though.
Oh, you know what?
I think all of Hickman's stuff was in 2019.
Then I can sit my honorable mentions because I made a mistake.
Alrighty. Well, Casey,
So
what is your number 3 of your top 3 for best comics of 2020?
Is not a Marvel book. It's not a DC book. It's not a book I even knew existed until you told me about it. Is Adventureman.
It's so good. I
love Adventureman. It is so brilliantly written and so exotically beautiful. I when you told me that the library edition of this book was coming out, I was like, that's going on my shelf easily. I love Adventureman, and I think it also comes from the fact that it feels like a progressive pulp adventure.
Yeah,
which who thought that mix could exist? Exactly.
2 great flavors that are better together.
And I love pulp adventure. I love Doc Savage. I love the Shadow. Give me Two-Fisted Adventure, man. I'm all about that. And there's just to mix in just how really progressive this book is. I fell in love with the lady with the blades on her legs. I was like, that's the coolest ever, and it's not even fully pointed out. Hey, look at this. Look how crazy we are with this person.
It's just a part of who she is.
It's just it. It's just there. It's just written. And I didn't even spot it until the second issue. I was like, hey, what's going on there?
Yeah, Terry Dodson doing some amazing character design for this entire incredibly diverse adopted family. Just people from all walks of life building up this little community. It's really gorgeous.
I had been reading recently the old Harley Quinn Dodson issues. So I've been kind of...
How to say, let's not get ahead of ourselves. 20 years isn't that old.
So I got to see, old Dodson from turn of the century to the Dodson we have now with the finely crafted artisan.
Yeah, like he started off right out the gate pretty great. Because I remember seeing him on like Gen X in like the late 90s. But you can really, like, you take a look at an issue of Gen X and take a look at an issue of Adventureman. It's just like, whoa.
Yeah,
it's
drastic.
It's like Adam Hughes, where they already started off great, but they've just become even better over time.
It's so rewarding to catch a great artist early in his career and know that years down the line it's just going to get better.
Oh yeah.
So
Alrighty.
What is your number 3?
My number 3 goes to Ten of Swords by Jonathan Hickman, Teenie Howard, and the rest of the X line. And honestly, it can go through the entire X line for 2020 because just firing off on all cylinders. When Ten of Swords started, it was like, oh, cool, this is going to be a big old Mortal Kombat slugfest. And then it just becomes this wild, anything goes. I mean, I should have suspected. They're going to the fairy realms. And
and I, like you, was completely sidebarred by that. I mean, I did not see that coming. It got silly real quick.
It's so good, though. Oh, my God. The Doug's wedding is what really sold me on the non-fights.
And he went right into it. You know, there was no apprehension. Doug just realized, I'm getting married. Crazy cool.
The evolution of the series is like Soul Calibur to Mario Party to Avengers Endgame.
Yeah,
because that's one of that final issue, Ten of Swords Destruction, is one of the biggest scope finales to an X-Men comic that I have read in years. Like, it felt epic. Like, seeing all the X-Men come through the portal in the sky with Sword coming down and the final fight between Apocalypse and Genesis.
Who would have thought that Apocalypse would have this level of character development?
That's the craziest thing to me, because I have long been an Apocalypse hater. Never cared for him.
Mm-hmm.
Always been a bottom-tier X-Men villain for me. Always thought he was just kind of boring in one note. But Hickman and Howard really instilled this fascinating sense of nobility and just and pathos. You really feel that pain that he lost his family 5,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And then they come back and they're in the thrall of demons, and it's epic stuff.
I think that Hickman took villains that were, for all intents and purposes, one-note villains, and he put a polish on them. Like a real good polish on them. I mean, Apocalypse, and we love new Mr. Sinister.
Well, to be fair, I'm going to give the kudos to Sinister to Kieran Gillen, because he did that work about 9 years ago on Uncanny. This is very much just Gillen Sinister. This is the Sinister who reprogrammed a Celestial to turn everybody in San Francisco into Sinisters.
I remember that.
Yeah, this is a clear evolution of that Sinister.
I remember there was a Sinister where he had a court full, like a city full of Sinisters. Yes. It was like a Victorian Sinister.
Yeah, he turned San Francisco into a Victorian city.
That was great.
Great stuff. But yeah. And most importantly, though, is Ten of Swords has so much excellent setup for future stories.
Yeah.
You've got the quest for Betsy that's going to be happening in Excalibur. You've got whatever's going to happen to the mutants of Araco. You've got the new mutants lineup that's going to be coming that I'm very excited for with Vita Ayala at the helm. Now that Doug is married, Warlock's got to get used to his bestie being married. I want to see what happens there.
And Captain Avalon is actually somewhat interesting.
Yeah, shocker. Like, I've never been a big Excalibur guy, but I might go back into Excalibur.
I will just kind of keep my eye on good old Captain Avalon. I don't dig on Excalibur. We talked about this. It's not that it's bad. It's just not a story like I really enjoy. But I'll go back there, like you said. I'll keep an eye on him.
Give a shot.
Yeah.
So,
I kind of want to see what happened to Betsy.
Let's say
it looked like Saturnine was putting her together.
Yeah, but then she couldn't quite come through.
Yeah.
Regardless, when I first saw this was going to be in a $100 hardcover at launch, I was like, that's ridiculous. But now I'm like, Gotta get it.
Yeah, I was actually really fearful that we were going to lose a lot of characters I liked.
Oh man, yeah.
But
Real
when I saw
consequences.
that Mario Party had happened, I'm like, okay, I'm
Okay.
okay with this. I'm good with this. This is amusing. And it God, Saturnine's a cheating bitch. It doesn't even try to hide it.
Homegirl, she just wanted a nut.
Yeah, come on, Avalon. You know what you need to do. That was one of the parts I really liked. Was Logan's like, this would always just go away if Brian would do his job. Like, I'm married, and Logan's like,
He's not. Captain Britain is not here for your newly fangled Krakoan customs. He's a
yeah,
human.
I'm not here for the whole Krakoa Backdoa. I'm from England, mother.
Case, that was my number 3, and what do you have in the?
Well,
third
gravitates the fact that X of Swords is my number 2. Yes, because I also enjoyed the Mario Party thing. I enjoyed Wolverine stabbing Saturnine, and then getting to see how bad it will get if Saturnine allows that to really happen. And it's like, ooh, wow, he really did get a mulligan on that one. That was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't like the fact Sabretooth wasn't in this, but I digress. I enjoyed the up and down of this whole thing. I like the fact that I didn't lose the characters I was really fearing. So I was really concerned that, I was going to lose Cypher. I mean, Cypher.
Yeah,
I was really concerned
I was
we were
scared
going to lose
because they had that cover.
Everything was pointed to the fact like, you are so dead. And then the odds came out 5,000 to 1 of him surviving. I'm like, I'm going to lose Cypher. I'm not prepared for this again. I'm not prepared for this again.
The cover of Apocalypse with his hand on his shoulder, and I was just like, oh no.
And the fact that Cypher's not on the cover of the New Mutants and it's Warlock by himself.
Yeah.
But the fact that everybody was happy, I was like, oh no, I know
Brett
this
Belvins
routine.
again.
It's Brett Blevins all over again. I know this routine. I like Magic, who was emotionally invested.
Magic had some amazing moments. My favorite one is when she's in the spelling bee competition.
Yes.
Oh, Matt, yeah, you spell it Magik.
And I like the fact that she was so emotionally invested in Cypher that she was trying everything she could to make him stay alive. And it almost seemed romantic, but then it's like, no, this has got to be some kind of like just deeply, deeply platonic.
She's just looking out for her bro.
Yeah, and that's her bro, because this is part of her class.
Speaking of bros, my boy Pogger Pog being a little goblin in a crocodile suit
was not the uncoolest thing, because it turns out his crocodile suit's the sword.
So good.
That was hilarious.
I love Pogger Pog. Storm and Death's relationship was awesome.
That was really nice.
Her literal dance with Death and then just throwing him to the skeletons.
Yeah, the fact that she's not afraid of death, there was a lot of metaphor going on there.
And I gotta give a shout out to Logan getting the absolute worst luck of going from losing to the drinking contest to being tagged in for his opponent and then winning, but with the technicality that, this was for you were fighting for a Rocco, so
let's also talk about the monumental heroism that is former agent of Hydra, Gorgon.
Oh,
who brought that counter right back up to a T and made it like a nice tie.
That was hysterical. It really felt like they were like, oh shit, we got one issue left, guys. Let's
we gotta get this.
Gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what happened to Gorgon, because I mean he died in the same way that Rockslide died.
I'm curious to see what the resurrected Gorgon's gonna look like.
Because I read the recent issue of X Factor, and Rockslide's having a real rough time.
I haven't gotten to read this week's yet. I'm excited.
It's so good.
I mean, I've heard it's the best of the series, and this has been a very, very high quality series.
Oh, X Factor is so good. X Factor is so good.
So, my number 2 is a book I was very excited for that had a lot of hype behind it at launch and did not disappoint. That is Superman Smashes the Klan by Gene Yang and Gurihiru, who are the creative team behind the Avatar: The Last Airbender comics, which I have not read, but I love Gene Yang's work on New Superman, and I love Gurihiru from their run on Gwenpool. So I was like, it's 2 great flavors, better together. And this is an adaptation of the classic Superman radio serial, The Clan of the Fiery Cross, which had the real-life impact of disseminating a lot of Ku Klux Klan secrets and made it so they could not operate in the shadows as they previously were. And it was a really big blow to them.
They took a serious hit as far as their their memberships and their
Yeah,
public
exactly.
image, everything.
It helped demystify it.
Yeah.
And this story is an excellent adaptation of it, and also being a great standalone, all ages graphic novel. It's one of the best Superman stories that I've read in years. It's set firmly in that time period of the 50s. You've got, it opens up with Superman fighting a Nazi robot powered by kryptonite. And
that's
now,
pretty cool.
Obviously, that's not the tone going through. It gets pretty heavy and serious at times.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like, it is an all ages comic, so it's not like super, super intense, but it's dealing with heavy themes.
Yeah.
And every issue also includes a really good essay from Gene Yang about the history of the story and like where it lies in American history and his own personal experiences with Superman as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a really, really great, beautiful book that you can get a nice, easy little paperback.
So, wow. I try not to put this in any kind of order. It's always easy and lazy to go, oh, I'm going to give you my top 5 in no particular order, because you have to really put some serious thought in why something is better than the other. And I had this problem with number 1. I had a 3-way tie in my head for what number 1 was really going to be. And it was for all different reasons. I had Hellions because it dealt with characters that I had wanted to see. You know, my love affair with the 80s Marauders was brought back to the forefront. But then Marauders could not be ignored for how consistently good it was and how great the storyline was. But I can't ignore the fact that X Factor is my number 1. X Factor,
book.
so beautiful. I love the art in it from they had the guy that did
David
Domino.
Baldeon. Yeah,
and I love that Domino book. The costumes are great. I'm a sucker for good costumes. I really am. And the fact they went in those costumes, issue 2, didn't even dick around. Let's go right into it. And
I always love a good team uniform. So I love that they, while not necessarily like exact matching, they all have similar cuts and a strong visual identity to the book.
Yeah, and on top of the fact that you've got these great costumes that do have that team identity, there's enough of a difference that you can see where everybody, how do I put this? The characters feel extremely developed. You know what you're getting into when you've got them on the frame. You're like, okay, we're dealing with Wolverine's son. We know how he's behaved in this book and how he's going to react to this, and it's been consistent. I like the characterization has been very, very consistent. No one's been dropping a ball. No one's getting lazy. And one of the things that's always messed me up in other books is when you another writer gets a hold of a character and there's no consistency, which was the reason why I hated Fallen Angels so much. It's the reason why I love X Factor is one of the reasons why I hated Fallen Angels.
Wow, you came full circle.
Yeah, you like that. I like the trip to Mojo World. We got to see a lot of characters we hadn't seen. I most recently saw Adam X.
The Extreme.
Yeah, which is an issue you haven't read yet. And
I'm excited to now. Oh, I didn't know Adam X was in it.
Adam X is in it, and so is Wind Dancer.
Okay.
So you're going to like that.
Yeah.
I like the fact that it's also bringing back all these characters that had largely been forgotten about, like the new X-Men with Wind Dancer. And all this other stuff. Oh God, there's so many things I want to talk to you about with this new X Factor, and I wish I could, because now I'm remembering. I'm like, God. Okay, I must resist giving you spoilers. I must resist giving you spoilers. I like the fact that Shatterstar got showed in this, and he used his weird kind of code to kind of inform his team, hey, this is what's going on. This is how you can get out of this whole thing. I love this team. I love this book. I love this writing. I love this artist. X Factor is the king of the hill, as far as I'm concerned.
Awesome. And for my number 1, it's a book that I absolutely know you did not read. And that is Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics by Tom Scioli.
Confirmed.
And just, it's one of those books that I didn't intend to read it in one sitting, but I did. I took an afternoon just chunking through this beautiful hardback. Tom Scioli is a creator who I've really enjoyed his recent work, like Fantastic Four Grand Design, his Transformers G.I. Joe book, his Superpowers backup, and a lot of the Young Animal stuff. And here it is the definitive Kirby biography because it's in Kirby's native format. It's in a comic.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes through his entire life from when he's a kid up until his death in the 90s. And it's primarily sourced from interviews he's done over the course of his career, including there's a really, really in-depth comics journal interview he did, I think in the late 80s, early 90s, that is excellent. It has tons and tons of stories that this book draws on. And I think, like many comics fans, I have a complicated relationship with Stan Lee. And this book really hammers home a lot of those things. It's from...
I was wondering if we were going to get a chance to hear about that.
There is so many of Kirby's stories about Stan make it into the book, and it really does not paint a flattering picture. I will say there is one scene where there's an iconic story about when Kirby's returned to Marvel, was he comes into the offices, they're taking the furniture out, and Stan Lee is sitting on his desk crying, and Jack says, "All right, Stan, I'll draw you comic books." And they give that story from Stan's perspective as well. And I thought that was a really cool, interesting choice, because I think it's very easy to go an extreme one way or the other in regards to Stan's relationship with his collaborators. And so I thought it was a surprisingly even-handed option for a book specifically about Kirby.
When I go back in my history with comic books, I always try to figure out what was my very first comic.
Mm-hmm.
And when I have three. I have three in my head. And when I look at them, it's like, well, I can just look at the dates of these released and I can figure out which is my first comic. But then I go back to the fact that a lot of the comics I picked up were when I went with my folks to antique shows, which is basically the runner of this place would rent out like an athletics place or a YMCA. Lots of vendors would go out and lay out all their stuff. And there would always be at least two people laying out really old comics, which is where my fascination with 70s Marvel comics, because I would read stacks of these things on airplane rides. One of the three that I can narrow down as being my first three comics is a Marvel Kirby book, and it's 1978's Machine Man #2.
Good stuff.
Yes, decidedly Kirby.
The Return of the King, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just a weird. It's a weird. I'll show you the cover of it right here. I mean, it's just a bizarre cover because it's got Machine Man.
Got the arm.
Well, in this title, he's jumping over a group of policemen who are all reaching out to him in Kirby way, and he's slotted car wheels onto himself, and he is wheelied over these cops in a car form. The bar between his arms and his legs, and then there's like he's three-wheeling it.
I hope whoever made Inspector Gadget cut Kirby a check, because Inspector Gadget is a wholesale ripoff of Machine Man.
Oh God! So I mean, I just to round out, I guess to flesh out the mystery of this, the other two comics I've got are Uncanny X-Men 129, which was the second part of the introduction to Proteus. Mm-hmm. So that's how I found out about the X-Men.
Excellent stuff.
And then Ghost Rider, which I don't know the number of it, but the title of it was Death of the Nuclear Family. And that was a comic that a babysitter handed to me in daycare. And I was like, what's this?
Hell
this
yeah,
guy's head's on fire. As a kid, even I knew that was awesome.
Pretty metal.
And that was when I was 8. So I'm not really too sure. I'm completely dating myself with these books, but yeah.
So yeah, Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, absolutely essential reading if you are even more than a casual comic book fan. Even if you are a casual comic book fan, give it a read. It's just a really well-told story about the history of comics through the eyes of its greatest creator.
I have so many questions about that, but I don't want to eat up our showtime with it. I have so many questions about Commandy and the Inhumans and all the stuff that he did for DC and Marvel in the 70s as he was kind of jumping back and forth.
I will leave with one of my favorite bits that I learned from it, is that Paul Levitz in the 80s wanted to get Kirby a bigger piece of the pie. So what he did was he commissioned Kirby to do the character designs for when Super Friends became
the Superpowers Hour.
Yes, exactly. When it was the Galactic Heroes. And that's why they put the New Gods in, because Paul Levitz wanted to get Kirby a little more cash. And so Kirby got to do all the redesigns for that. He got paid for all that.
I remember the designs for that and seeing in the figures, and it was like, wow, there's a lot of New Gods in
Dark
this
Side with the big old medallion.
There was a I think it was a big Barda and a
there's a
Mr. Miracle.
You got a different colored Calabac.
The first cyborg figure.
Yeah, first cyborg action figure. Redesigned Parademons.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, super friends. Great stuff. And I think that's going to wrap up our best and worst of 2020.
Indeed.
Yeah, thank you guys for checking in. Like and subscribe. We're going to be coming out with new videos on a timely basis once more. I think we're going to be getting away from the weekly review format. We're going to be some more focused stuff like this.
So this also means we're probably going to have to change the title because it's not going to be last week's comics this week anymore.
If you got a suggestion, leave it in the comments below.
Yeah, we definitely need a polish on that one.
Yeah. Maybe even sign up for our Patreon. We can give you some exclusive insider.
And I would love for like some reader, watcher input on what we should be adding as content, because we're going to center it more on events.
Yeah, if you want us to review a specific book, let us know.
Or like we did something on Swords.
If you want to force me to do a page-by-page read of 3 Jokers, please don't.
We could stack that up with J.J. Abrams. Just read all 5 on air right here.
The reuniting of the Haters Brigade.
Oh God, we could really hate on some stuff.
That's all the time we have for today. I'm Gideon Gonzalez. With me as always,
Casey Johnson. Thanks for coming.